Good late Thursday, early Friday. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center right now, giving a look at that map here across the southeast region of the U.S. You see it's a thunderstorm watch in play toward parts of Oklahoma and Texas until about 7 a.m. Central Time for that Friday morning there. And you'll have another box that goes just for a little bit longer, a little bit further out toward the west as we're getting out toward areas of Texas there in the northern part of the state. But you can kind of see here, temperature-wise toward our local area, it is, pretty, I guess you could say, what you would expect for this time of year. It's not too humid out there, but we're definitely seeing those temperatures here overnight be warmer than what we were seeing. I mean, look back, as you go back, not too long ago, we were getting there closer towards some of those temperatures where you could get a little bit of frost around, but not that anymore. That's for sure, as we've been watching things here across the region. As we'll go ahead and kind of zoom on in. I know when we're talking about the frost, we're talking about mainly the rural areas there, but I wasn't too far back, but now it's starting to get closer to a summertime pattern. We're a little above average with some of those temperatures here. Most of the days coming up in the next 7 as we continue to stay up. FSU Shrine, of course, is graduation today and tomorrow. I'll have a forecast for each of the 6 here in just a moment for those coming to those. Of course, inside down to our Tucker Civic Center, but outside there, I know people will be trying to, gather and get in line to go on in, to stay hydrated. I know, same goes to, for staying hydrated toward UF's main graduation. It'll be outside, though. I believe it's Friday night, so later tonight, really, as we're looking at things at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium there in Gainesville. So, not expecting rain around, though, for that. Not seeing that in the forecast right now. So that's good, considering that's outside. That's a lot more important in terms of, the overall rain chance, because they've had issues with that years past. I remember folks trying to get inside there or stay dry somehow, but it wasn't really working out there. But as we go ahead and look here, you can see just overall here, I know, congratulations to all those graduates here at all the different universities here, colleges across the region, across the country for that matter, depending on where you're watching from. But of course, we're focused on our 62 counties. We got to watch out toward the coastal river of current threats. So continuing as we look ahead, be very careful. I mean, if you're going maybe to celebrate graduating or celebrating, a good semester being over now or anything along those lines here, just overall going to the beach, be careful with currents. We don't want tragedies to happen. Any tragedy to happen as possible with the conditions here, based on the overall pattern here. I know we'll go ahead and put up the wind direction. You don't, necessarily just see the most favorable pattern ever, all the spots, but still, we have to be very careful because there is that threat that does continue here as we look ahead. But again, just continue to monitor things here. With that, I know we alluded to it in the description of the video, some strong to severe storms possible toward the weekend, toward parts of our area here. The model's starting to hint at that a little bit more. I know that's the one that's Tallahassee put in there discussing that, we'll have to watch some of those western counties and also in general have to watch some of the northern counties here. And they mentioned they even in the word a little bit, it's like southwest Georgia here. An isolated tornado can't completely be ruled out here like Saturday later on. So just stay tuned here and that. Not a big chance, but it's not zero. Not expecting an outbreak of any kind. We just have to always pay attention. We're not that far off of that, very rare event. The anniversary of that from last year toward Tallahassee, those tornadoes that we weren't really necessarily seeing a scenario come together with. And then things took that escalation. Now, we're not expecting that here, but we weren't expecting that there either. But I don't think the environment's going to be conducive for widespread severe weather, much less, it might not even be conducive for isolated severe weather. It might just be some stronger storms, not even getting as severe. So don't stress out about it, but we'll keep you updated if we need to be on here towards Saturday, Sunday, not turning logo red or anything like that. But just pay attention. We're getting closer to that summertime pattern anyway. We could have some of those, what we can call renegade storms sometimes. George Winterland came up with that one. So the late George Winterland, I say where I got that from. I remember him saying that years ago. The great FSU alum there. He was at Channel 4 in Jacksonville for so many years, decades and decades there, keeping everybody safe and informed, whether it was Hurricane Dora or the 2004 hurricane season, 40 years later even. He was there getting everybody through it. And I remember him saying that, and I think it was, that pattern this time of year here, either 2014 or 2015, somewhere around there where I came home from FSU. I remember him saying that on a broadcast. They had him on the phone. He was a emeritus meteorologist at that point and the hurricane expert. It was actually just some severe weather, not tropical weather. Somewhere in there, it may have been 2013 even, but somewhere in there, one of those years, it was that pattern where we had a whole bunch of rain toward the region, and we had some severe weather later on in the period. There was some tornado threats even. He was calling in to help out there. I mean, and, just talking about renegade storm because it was just one, and of course that kind of harkens back to FSU as we continue to stay FSU strong here, of course. But yeah, renegade storms is what we could have in the summertime as well. Those wouldn't generally have a tornado threat with them. They sometimes can. Pop-up storms. Eventually, we'll have more than just, one time, or one type of storm there around. I mean, you have a little bit more organized line here and then something else there. So just have to always pay attention here as we give you guys the latest. Let's go ahead and we'll look out toward Oklahoma now, around Elk City there. You see areas in that region. There's just a thunderstorm warning now. We're looking out there. Just got issued, it looks like, last couple minutes. Looks like areas of, wind potentially being the concern, and then even broadcast media reporting 60-mile-an-hour winds south of Elk City there. So there's a thunderstorm watch for Oklahoma City, Moore and Norman there as we get into the overnight hours. That's worth noting. But then this warning in particular here, as we're tracking it here, Washtenaw County there in western Oklahoma, western Caddo County in southwestern Oklahoma, Custer County in western Oklahoma, northern Kiowa County in southwestern Oklahoma, southwestern Blaine County in northwestern Oklahoma, southern Dewey County in northwestern Oklahoma, northeastern Greer County in that state as well, and same with east central Beckham County. So that's kind of the storyline there as we're tracking things. You see some other storms are near the Texas-Oklahoma border as well. So a pop-up accident. One of these went over 2 and tail, type of signatures here. They're near Hollister, north of Hollister. But you see this here in Elk City here, 60-mile-an-hour winds, and this is moving off toward the east at 35, quarter-size hail also as well. So, Oklahoma City, Norman there, those areas, the University of Oklahoma there. As we're looking at things, as we're tracking things there at campus, going to have to be paying attention here as we're looking through the night with some strong and severe weather. Isolated brief tornado can't completely be ruled out here, but they'll be watching that there. Stillwater, Oklahoma State they're not under the severe thunderstorm watch up there, but they're gonna be watching some of this. So hopefully, for their sake, this accident stays more to their south with the worst of this though. But we'll definitely continue, to see the meteorology community watch that. I know Clutter.com/radar can give you an interactive look at things here as the situation does transpire. And let me go ahead and see the power.us map right now. I want to do something with that. So let's go ahead and pull that up on the other source here as we continue along. You can see that area in Pennsylvania, still almost 180,000 customers in the dark tonight. There were some storms up there tonight, but we had the bulk of the worst of the accident back on that Tuesday there. And we'll go ahead and zoom into where that state right now. You can see as I scroll the map down a little, we still have, quite a few outages there. Allegheny County, over 100,000 customers still in the dark. That's where Pittsburgh is. And then where Penn State University is, that is where we have 5,146 customers or so in the dark in Center County tonight. So that's a storyline there as folks, Penn State end their semester and the like, over there at Oklahoma there, OU, they're having to deal with the weather there as well. Different impacts from that, at least, as I know those both have meteorology schools associated with them. As we look here, let's go toward Texas. There are a few outages there in the Lone Star State tonight. Let me go ahead and see you there. We have, random outages. There were storms in central Texas back on that Thursday. Even a significant tornado, maybe, or at least a large tornado, was indicated there toward central Texas for a bit as we were looking back in the timeline there. So that was intriguing. The threat kind of escalated a little bit for a short period of time there, toward areas there in the central part of the state. I know looking at some of the Austin TV stations there as we were tracking things with that. But as we go ahead and see here the overall pattern, you can see these warnings. I mean, there's quite a few warnings here. And then let me see the newest outlook. I know we do these updates pretty late. Sometimes the outlook, depending on if we're doing them later, will be out for today ahead, but it's not there yet. But not on here. But let's go ahead and we'll get over to the graphic source right now, I think. I'm going to go ahead and go on over toward that. So our drought monitor here, that's what I was alluding to in the description. Unfortunately, we are seeing an increase in drought here. As we're tracking things across the area, you see that red area, that's an extreme drought here as we're looking toward southern parts of the viewing circle. So you just have to be kind of mindful of that here for sure. You can see there toward areas of Marion County, a little bit of Putnam, more so of Flagler County in our area. That's a significant, extreme drought is what that's called. So really do not want to burn, or wildfires could spread pretty fast in that area there. Even a severe drought, we got to be concerned. Moderate drought as well, and an abnormally dry here in spots between. But it's really picking up. We need the rain here. We're going to have wildfire problems potentially really starting to escalate here on our hands. Now, we have some drought in Georgia too, but I know we'll have, storms. We want to get the precip from them, not the lightning, because the lightning can be problematic here as well. We are going to get some precip, maybe even, as I alluded to, some severe weather. So we'll have to just, concerned here. A severe threat's pretty low, but this fire threat here, if we don't get the precip that we need, we're going to have it worsen, more and more so in the days and weeks to come. So really do not want to be burning there. Some areas have burn bans, some don't, but this is just starting to become more of a concern. Everybody in our area in Florida, you see on this map, and Georgia has concerns similar as well. Maybe not quite as extreme, but you probably don't really be burning here at this point because it could get out of control pretty quick here and really do some damage, really be problematic. You see South Florida there with some concern as well, as we're looking like toward parts of Broward and Palm Beach, Miami-Dade counties there, and even on the southwest Florida coast there. I'm watching things there as you get down toward some of those communities further south, like Naples area even. So as we go ahead and see here the next 7 days rainfall forecast, there's some on the board at least. It's not just bone dry. You see a lot more toward East Texas there, toward areas of Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana. We're watching some flood concerns, but toward our area, you see that darker blue, that's a ½ inch on average over the next 7 days. Need more than that, really, though. And dark green, about a ½ inch. I know what we really need, but we don't want in some ways, obviously, is a weak tropical storm. Just, get a really weak one. We don't have a lot of just overwhelming moisture. But we have, I'm talking about, you don't want a Debbie or a Faye, like, Debbie of 2012 is what I'm referencing there. We had Debbie last year. But we don't want, this prolific flooding threat like we had in Debbie in 2012 or Faye in 2008. But we could use something that has some rainfall with it. I mean, we've had some, rainfall producers over the years that can be more beneficial than problematic as ones you almost forget about because they were sometimes more helpful than harmful. But Debbie, Faye, Debbie 2012 or 24, in that matter, but 12 is talking about the rainfall, and Faye in 08. We had bad rainfall in Debbie in 24 as well, but Debbie 2012 was even more flood, risk type latent there, and then 08 Faye, those both really had flood problems associated with those. Don't want, something like that, but we do need some rain here. We're going to start having more problems. As we look here, though, there's a really small chance for a very isolated brief tornado in the western northern counties here as we look ahead Saturday, Sunday. So just if we were to get a tornado warning, I'm not expecting a tornado watch, but if we were to get a tornado warning, just try to avoid taking shelter in that mobile home, get inside a sturdy building, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible, and protect yourself from flying debris by putting on a bicycle helmet. So again, some stuff that's important to keep in mind here as we're looking here, and we'll be on if there's any tornado warning storms in the 62 counties like we've been doing for over 5 years. You know, and our coverage is available on all these different platforms. Facebook, KC Cloud, everybody acts Cloud Weather, Twitter /X at Cloud KC, YouTube at Cloud Weather, Twitch Cloud Weather, and the website cloudweather.com. So very important to keep in mind there as we go ahead and see fog. That's a threat here too as we look ahead this pattern. You know, we have temperatures, you know, as we're looking some of those mornings here. I know we're seeing some of those readings here, and combined with this overall moisture there, the mixing, you can have some of that. So just slow down and give yourself extra time to reach your destination. Make sure your vehicle is as visible as possible. The vehicles, where you use your aluminum headlights, and leaving plenty of room between you and the vehicle in front of you. So very important stuff to keep in mind here as we're looking, as we're tracking things here, as we try to give you guys the very latest details on everything. I know it's so important to do all that here in toward the weather center. We're just, you know, trying to stay on top of everything here, obviously, and make sure we have all those latest details for you here. Just gotta be, you know, mindful of everything that can happen, and then know that spring 2025 commencement sequence there going on at the Donald O. Tucker Civic Center in Tallahassee today. Now, Friday, you know, coming up, and then Saturday. You know, exciting time. Of course, we still, you know, we'll have everybody though that was impacted by the tragedy of the Union a little over 2 weeks ago, and our thoughts and prayers, and there'll be moments of silence there, or at least, you know, just moments there to reflect on what happened at each of those ceremonies, and also just a situation where there'll be enhanced security, obviously. As you see, lower 70s there, 9 a.m. on that Friday. So, gotta get to sleep if you're going to that one. If you're watching this live now, 10% chance of rain. So I've lowered that a little. That's good. 2 p.m., you know, 20% chance. The chances of rain are not looking that bad for Friday. We see middle 80s, so lingering now toward the evening. I know we have the FSU baseball against Clemson series continuing as well. You know, this weekend we've had that over the years, and coming to the town there. I believe I thought I read there that the band, some of the Martin Chiefs will be performing there toward that Friday game there at Dick Howser Stadium there, and then Mike Martin Field for that matter. And then Saturday you see lower 70s, and then warming up, but not as quick in some ways. We're going to start to get some storms coming in possibly, and that can be problematic because you'll have to just be very careful with that, not to get wet as you're trying to go in there toward the Donald L. Tucker Civic Center. So, you know, that could be a problematic thing if you're not prepared toward a Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening there, maybe with a poncho, something along those lines. So, got to keep that in mind. You don't want to be wet going in there to soaked and then, you know, get you sick possibly or ruin it for you. You don't want to be dripping after a downpour. That's not out of the question. You know, in that type of setup there. Saturday afternoon, the 5th and the 6th ceremonies of the period there is what I'd be most concerned for the precip by far, really. And then as we go ahead and see you now that planning forecast, you see here as we're looking at things, rain chance really starts to go up towards Sunday, you know, with the 60% more likely than not, but even Saturday, 50% in terms of the viewing circle here for Tallahassee, a little higher there, even towards Saturday evening. You know, towards 60% is that area to be more favorable later Saturday. As you see there, the overall temperature staying a little above average generally here for those highs. As long as you see Tuesday morning dipping down the upper 50s, that looks a little bit nicer. But overall, you know, it's not, you know, a pattern here where it's going to be something where you're getting that jacket out or anything like that. That's for sure. As we're starting to get, you know, into the May now. May is underway. You know, today's the 2nd day of the month, and so that's, you know, that's this Friday. You know, today is this Friday, and then your Saturday is the 3rd, Sunday is the 4th, and Monday that's Cinco de Mayo, that's the 5th. As we're looking here at the overall graphic, as we're tracking things here in toward the Weather Center. By the way, Storm Prediction Center just came out with an update here that's a, you know, pretty aggressive one. for some wind and hail here as we're looking ahead, especially the wind now on that Friday. We now have seen an enhanced risk to get issued here. Not necessarily for tornado threats, but those aren't out of the equation either. So that's just loading into my system here. So let me go ahead and we'll jump on over here right now as the latest update just coming in the last few seconds. I mean, just popped up from other systems. That orange area, that's a 3 out of 5 severe. It's not, probably something we'll have to come on for unless we really get, some tornadic activity really emerge out of this, that becomes a bigger deal. But in terms of the national threat, but you see enhanced risk here: San Antonio, Houston, Shreveport, Monroe, Louisiana, Jackson, Mississippi, Pine Bluff, I think, in Arkansas, or maybe not quite. Okay, they're a little bit out of that, the enhanced, but it's, you see areas in southeast Arkansas. You see Jackson there, Mississippi. Under that, you see areas like Starkville. Under this, Oxford, Tupelo. And then as you get up toward Birmingham there, Huntsville, Tuscaloosa. You get into toward Nashville there, and you have areas there in toward parts of Kentucky, like Lexington, down in enhanced risk of severe weather. That's a big area. I mean, if I were to measure this here, that's, going from the bottom left side of that to the top right, that's about 1,000 miles across here. So that is, very noteworthy. Tornado threats, 2%. So we could get some isolated warnings for that, but, not going to be a situation just overwhelming with that. But then there's a hail threat here. That's more in toward Texas and central Texas. San Antonio, Austin, College Station. That's where Texas A&M is. Lufkin there. Killeen. As you look back in there, I'm sure you saw Waco up there as well. And Baylor there. And then you have your wind threat, though. San Antonio, Houston, Shreveport, Monroe. So, you got areas there like Louisiana Tech, UL Monroe under that. And then you have Mississippi State University, you have Ole Miss, you have University of Alabama, you have Alabama Huntsville, you have Vanderbilt there. And then areas there, Lipscomb and Belmont. And getting into toward Kentucky here, you have Bowling Green, where we have Western Kentucky University right on the edge. Lexington, so the University of Kentucky. So gonna have to be watching here. Some having graduations, I would think, this weekend. Some maybe not, but still, exam time and or move out time, something along those lines. It's busy and could have some impactful weather. So something to be mindful of. Let's not leave out. Austin is obviously where the University of Texas is, so can't leave them out. Houston, that university there. In Harris County in southeast Texas. So again, just trying to cover the bases as best I can there with that information. But again, just trying to keep you guys informed there. You have Knoxville, University of Tennessee, still under a slight risk of severe weather. As you're looking, even getting West Virginia. So you have areas like Morgantown, West Virginia University, they're in a risk. Columbus, Ohio State University. Cincinnati, the Bearcats, they have a risk there. So, Pittsburgh's right on the edge. They're coming up. They've already had all those outages, and now, Pittsburgh, the Panthers, and the ACC. And just have to be mindful here what we're tracking, what we're monitoring, because even if you don't have a tornado, if you're going on to something outside, even for a while you're out and about, this can be deadly. It can lead to vehicle accidents that you're not going to really hear about, probably. Just a rain on the road. A pretty active pattern here for a day. So many folks are out and about, possibly. That can be kind of concerning, actually, here as we're tracking things in toward the weather center. Even some significant damaging hail possible here in toward Texas from about, areas around Athens, Texas, Lufkin there, and Waco, Baylor, Texas A&M's and College Station. Austin is where Texas is. Texas San Antonio there, I believe it is in San Antonio there. As you get toward the border there, Del Rio under this as well, and it's probably doesn't cut off right at the border. It's just the way things work here with the SPC forecast, because they don't forecast into Mexico. They forecast there, toward the United States. But this is something with these algorithms. They're going kind of wild with this here. 2-inch hail possible and all this, and that's moving toward the southeast at only 15 miles an hour. So that's going to be something areas like Vernon, Texas have to deal with, and maybe Wichita Falls later on. We'll have to just kind of wait and see, how much that holds together. But that's a unusual setup to have that many, severe hail areas within this to show up. I mean, you don't think it's not accurate, but it very well could be. I mean, we have an indicator here, 1.69 inches. We're live right now with this at 12:49 a.m. Central Time, by the way, if you guys are wondering. But you have an area here, 1.69 inches. You have 1.73 inches with this red square. I know they're hard to see, but then this red square, 1.89 inches. This one here, red square, 3 inches or so of hail. That is very significant. 1.46 inches there, and then 1.77 inches with that red square there, and then 1.38 inches. That's a lot, of nasty convection there as we're looking, and just, head for that Friday. Some of these times will vary, but you have SMU and TCU in this risk here as well, and Texas Arlington there, and North Texas, there's different schools. I'm sure I'm leaving somebody out somewhere, but try not to. But these universities here, all these different impacts here as we're tracking things. I mean, western parts of North Carolina, you have Asheville, so Boone's in here. That's going to be Appalachian State. As we kind of look, I'm seeing Boone up here, of course, and, just ETSU there, as we're looking at things. So again, East Tennessee State University. So just have to be mindful of everything here. I'm sure it'll be, that's the way it works with our coverage. Sometime, I mentioned all these geographic points, and then what'll end up happening will be the one I didn't mention is where you end up having the problems here that become a national story. That's just how it works sometimes. But trying to mention all of them. You have Memphis there, of course, and Western Tennessee. You have areas there, across that region here. Jackson State University in Jackson, Mississippi. We have just, again, that's right, UAB in Birmingham. Again, so again, just trying to keep everybody aware as we're looking at things, as we're tracking things here in toward Weather Center Tulane in New Orleans, LSU's in Baton Rouge. They're in a risk here as we look ahead. You see a 2 out of 5, and then Nice State is in Lake Charles, I believe, there. Had that win in the men's basketball tournament this year. So, again, just watching things. Texas Rio Grande Valley, I believe, is down in here. So, again, just always have to be mindful here of these areas with that threat of some severe weather danger as we're looking at things. And even, in our far northwestern counties now, there is a marginal 1 out of 5 risk for later on in the period here. So, not for tornadoes, not for hail, but it's for wind trying to hold together. In far northwestern counties here, Quitman, and that region up in that part of the area. You see the community of Cuthbert there and the like. And in fact, let's go ahead and put HRRR on. I'll go to the local view. I'll go ahead and put HRRR on here with the latest here. Let me go ahead and do that. So we're going to go ahead. This is just, today here as we're looking, and then, models are going to pick this up better than others. This mainly scattered rain here on this Friday, according to this, but maybe something popping up later on in the periphery or coming in late in the period, which technically these outlooks go to 8 a.m. Saturday. That's, with the green there. Maybe something coming in real late. But then you have Saturday. That's when Roy will be watching. You start to see stuff approaching from the west here, and this is around 3 o'clock, but just one model representation. Maybe some strong to severe weather in southwest Georgia. 3 o'clock Saturday, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock Saturday, 6 o'clock Saturday, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. So you kind of get the idea. That's the HRRR model run from 0 to Z going through Saturday and toward the evening hours. So again, just continuing to give you guys that latest information there. Keeping you guys up to date. Let me see if there's any updates here. Some of the different sources, any comments from any of the viewers at home. Anything like that. I don't see any here. As we're just continuing to track things here in toward the weather center. But again, I'm just trying to give you guys the very latest updates, of course. You know, busy time there toward the different colleges, universities here. You have FSU and Tallahassee, FAMU, of course, there as well. And then as we're looking, I know you don't think, let me check the cameras here. I'm going to pull some up, but this, you know, we had a view here of the, I don't know, Tucker Civic Center on the traffic cameras just so we could kind of, you know, show you that. But there are a few people out and about near that at almost 2 in the morning, so we'll go ahead and try to pop that view up here real quick if we can. Let's go ahead and pull that source in here, the Florida 5-1 perspective. A little bit, you know, busy with foot traffic compared to what maybe you would think this part of town here at almost 2 in the morning, but it is a busy time of graduation, you know, just hours away, and or, I mean, I guess if you finish your exam late Thursday, you might be, you know, maybe just have been getting your stuff together, and then maybe you could possibly, maybe if you went out last night in town even, you know, responsibly there, and then you're going to be getting up there in the morning to head out of town until the fall. So, as we're looking at things, Pensacola Street and Railroad Avenue, as we're tracking things here, that's just one perspective. I'll go ahead and go to a different view here of the region. Let me go ahead and see what we might have. Let's go to Dewey in Tennessee. We'll pull that camera in here. A little bit of traffic here for almost 2 in the morning. I guess some people, parents, you know, could be arriving for graduation even. You know, they had to work late on that, you know, Thursday or from way out of town, and they're just getting in from South Florida maybe, you know, for a graduation on Friday. So, you see here quite a few cars are at the light, but the weather's not playing a role, so that's the good news here. As we're looking at things, weather is pretty calm. It's in the 60s right now, 65 at the airport in Tallahassee, and we're not seeing any of those weather hazards, fog. We're not seeing that in play right now, so that's good, at least in that area, as we're looking at things there toward the campus area. So look at all those cars at almost 2 in the morning. It gets busy, you know, and sometimes it gets pricey in Tallahassee as well for hotel rooms on this weekend of the year. You have to get them way ahead. And as you're looking at things, and even then, they can be very pricey. But again, and that goes for UF, and I'm sure pretty much everywhere across the country. But and you're having 2, you know, of the big schools there, the FAMU and FSU, and it's pretty busy. I mean, here at almost 2 in the morning, as we're looking at things, that's definitely a storyline there. So. Let me go ahead and move away from that view here. So again, I'm just trying to give you guys the very latest here. And the weather's not too big of a factor there. I mean, don't really have any precip to say on any of our views here right now in the state. Interesting to see that wrist out toward the west here as we're tracking things. You know, west of Oklahoma City there. Some of those warnings I was alluding to. Let me go ahead here. And by the way, you know, just, you know, not too long ago, we were able to start using these cameras in severe weather coverage. So, you know, that's an added feature. So being able to pull up some of these views, and of course then having to be FSU strong, obviously, with everything that transpired there tragically. So obviously there is enhanced focus here toward FSU and my alma mater this weekend, as everybody's trying to enjoy the graduations here, and the graduates here trying to enjoy things the best they can in this type of scenarios. Of course, my thoughts and prayers continue to go out to the you know, those victims that lost their lives, families, the families of victims that are, you know, are alive, the innocent victims, and then innocent victims themselves, and just the whole entire Florida State University community as we're tracking things here. See if we can pull up a camera close to, it's not quite at it, but kind of getting a little behind it, I guess. Actually, one of them isn't working, but let's go ahead and try. Let's try Pensacola Stadium, maybe. Let's go to that camera here. I know that big baseball series coming up. As we're looking at things, as we're tracking things, just in that vicinity, and it'll get busy on that road. I mean, it's going to be really busy here. You know, baseball and softball's out of town, but baseball and of course those graduations all being at similar times here. So make sure you're taking extra time to reach your destination as you're looking ahead. Rush hour is, you know, that I believe it's the end of the session there at the Capitol. So make sure you're getting plenty of time in there to reach your destination. As we're looking at things, you don't want to be late to graduation. I think the games are sellouts. Baseball Friday and Saturday, that what I read there, social media. So yeah, definitely make sure you're getting there early. Weather won't maybe be a real Friday player in that Friday, but Saturday it definitely could be, especially Saturday. There's a distinct chance there will be some changes here or delays with the Saturday game. On Sunday, maybe a little less likely toward the west there, Tallahassee, but Saturday we have to be a little bit mindful of some alterations to the schedule being a possibility for that baseball series against Clemson. Both teams that are really up there in the rankings. I think the Saturday game, and maybe the ACC network game, the one actually on the linear cable channels, that could, you know, that might end up getting it bumped down, unfortunately, if to change that schedule. But again, let's go ahead and move away from this view. As we're looking, let's go up, you know, Gainesville area here. We don't have cameras toward the campus there that we can sell, but I have a feeling I-75 might be, if it's that busy in Tallahassee at this time of night. You know, I got to think that I-75 is pretty busy. I know. The most memorable camera shot I can remember is after, well, not after, but before a Hurricane Irma back in 2017, watching some of the traffic cameras there on I-75. Folks evacuating from the south. Those were very memorable here, looking at and posting about on social media even. As we go ahead and give you the latest. I know. Let me look at that camera there. In that vicinity, and some of them don't come up as good here at night. So let me see what I can find. Oh, not wanting to come up right now. So let me see if I can find any. This one might work. Okay, they don't want to load right now, but we'll keep trying a little bit more, maybe. Okay, Payne's Prairie is loading this. I know sometimes we can have issues with some fog concerned in this area. Not that we're seeing that, you know, overwhelming right now, but I'll pull this camera in here. Payne's Prairie, looking at that. See quite a bit of traffic really for 2 in the morning. I mean, but again, graduations at UF and FSU, you know, and just across the region as they've alluded to. So this is toward Alachua County there, the Payne's Prairie area. As we're tracking things, as we're monitoring things here, this area, we've had issues with fog and smoke mixing before, unfortunately, with tragic, very tragic consequences. So, always watching that area. There may be a little bit of haziness, but it's hard to see. It looks decent here right now. But as we go ahead and move away here from that, we'll go ahead and see if there's anything else I need to get to. Actually, in terms of fog and smoke, we did have and still do have a special weather statement out for parts of Marion County wildfire in the Ocala National Forest, reducing visibilities along State Road 40. The Florida Department of Transportation was reporting on Wednesday morning with this statement, you know, from the Weather Service in Jacksonville, that significant reductions of visibilities were occurring along State Road 40 there in the vicinity of Northeast 10th Street. 10th Street Road in the Ocala National Forest due to a combination of fog and smoke. I'm okay, trying to merge those words together here. From a nearby wildfire, this dangerous combination here of the smoke and the fog, known as super fog, so it can be very dangerous and may continue, you know, during the overnight and early morning hours during the next several days. And motorists planning to travel there along State Road 40 in the Ocala National Forest during the overnight and morning hours to remain alert for sudden changes there in visibility over short distances. So just trying to give you the very latest here on all that. I think that pretty much covered it for tonight, though, as we continue to stay FSU strong and FSU united here. Congratulations to all the graduates. You know, that's so important. Maybe a few lingering exams for some folks, but congratulations and good luck on the exams if you still have some lingering. But just congratulations here to all those graduates. Your work, your hard work, finally paying off with that degree, whether it's an FSU degree, you know, or a degree from another school, round UF degree, and or the like here. Just congratulations here. As we're looking at things, as we're tracking things, stay FSU strong here. That's what we want to do, and we have to watch this risk out of the West here. You know, because you know, there could be more folks in harm's way than normal. You saw the elevated traffic levels there, even around Tallahassee. I suspect around a lot of the universities, you know, we have that, right? You know, coming up here during the day ahead, and we could have, you know, some wind damage that could be pretty nasty here, and some hail that could be damaged, and more so in Texas with that than anywhere. But gotta be keeping that in mind here. You know, that's something that can go under the radar. The tornado threat is not that high. It's at base 2%. I mean, even one of those hidden could be a real big problem. But, you know, it's a situation here where this can go under the radar and we can end up tragically. We saw some, you know, just terribly fatalities there up toward, I believe, it was Western PA, Western Pennsylvania with that wind event there back on Tuesday. So we just got to be really careful here and can't let our guard down. Because this kind of goes, I mean, I don't see the big tornado threat. So it kind of goes under the radar for me some. We're not, like, ramping up coverage. But I see the enhanced risk, and that says, you know, with so many folks out and about, the academic schedules, you know, folks, I mean, even if you're not graduating, you're headed home, and you might encounter that slick spot in the road, or that gust of wind, or even a brief tornado, or something like that, and hail that damages things. Is, you know, most folks be all right, but there'll be a few folks that have a problem here, and it could be very, you know, significant. So be very, very careful here as we're looking ahead. Real quick observational look at things. There is some fog showing up toward like North Alabama and, you know, in western North Carolina, West Virginia fog indicator there. That's, you know, what those gray squared with the white lines indicate. Locally here, we don't have any of that, so that's good at least though. But again, we're just always trying to stay on top of everything here as we were, you know, watching things here in the meteorology. I mean, we see lightning in a few spots, and not seeing that, you know, out west right now toward like California, but there's a general thunderstorm risk there, and you see there was some rain around there a few hours ago. I think I saw a lightning strike out there earlier on our map, at least one, probably more, but at least one that kind of caught my eye. So just kind of interesting to see here, though, in the overall pattern as we're tracking things. That'll do it. Have a great night. Stay safe. Have a great weekend. We'll pop back in. You know, if there's some local weather concerns in days ahead, hopefully there's not anything, you know, like a national concern where we have a tornado threat escalate. But we'll keep our eyes on things here, you know, in the Ward the Weather Center, obviously. With that severe weather threat in play, a threat of 5 risk here is nothing to mess around with. That escalation, you know, with folks out and about, that wind danger can be really problematic. Severe thunderstorm warnings and severe thunderstorms can and have and will continue tragically and be deadly at times. You gotta watch out for some flash flooding concerns as well in isolated areas. So, you know, the urban areas could have a little bit bigger problem with that. You know, even if it's just a base flash flood warning, somebody not familiar with an area, maybe, you know, grandparent even going into an area, they, you know, for their grandchild's graduation, and then they get in the water that's too deep, and then, you know, and then could have to be rescued. So, again, just have to be very mindful here of all the different dangers, but try to enjoy things. I know sometimes we're a little pessimistic on here, but we got to be positive about the, you know, graduation of so many folks as we're looking at things. See some lightning up toward New York City right now in that area. That's kind of interesting to see up in that region. Some pop-up stuff there. You know, ice up New York, I think, is in here, and you know, as we're getting further out, and we're just seeing a little bit of that pop-up action here at 2 in the morning. Maybe you don't expect to hear that out that way, but there's some of that right now as we're looking at, as we're tracking things. So we're definitely keeping our eyes out, you know, that different, you know, risk levels for different folks here as we're tracking things and as we're looking. That's going to do it for now. Have a great night. Stay safe.